My name is Kevin McGorty, Director of the Tall Timbers Land Conservancy. Tall Timbers was founded as a research station, but very much linked to the land. And so the threat of urban sprawl, the Board of Trustees recognized that we could do all the esoterical research we wanted to do, but if we didn't save the landscape, there would be no place to do the research. And so they worked with other landowners and conservation organizations to create a land trust back in 1990. We started off with one conservation easement on 200 acres of land, and today we have saved 114,000 acres on 82 family properties, mainly focused in the Red Hills, but also in the greater Albany area. And we are now the largest regional land trust in Georgia and Florida. Accreditation of land trust is there for accountability and building public trust. It's the Betty Crocker seal of approval, if you will. Conservation easements are voluntary agreements, but they're agreements in perpetuity, that a landowner is giving up their development rights and they're saving the conservation values that are on their property, whether it be a historic site, natural habitat, scenic viewshed. And so perpetuity is very scary. It lasts a long time. And so it's important that a landowner knows that that organization's going to be around a long time, that their children or a future owner of the property is going to be able to depend that that land trust is going to take its responsibility seriously to monitor and steward that landscape and look over it. And so that's why accreditation is very, very important, to build that trust from landowner to landowner and to the general public as well. I wanted to show you this spot. This is a great example of a conservation easements working for the public good. This is Lake Iomonia, some 6,000 acres, Leon County's very famous, one of its disappearing lakes, its largest lake. We have 26 miles of shoreline protected with conservation easements along this magnificent lake. And the public gets to enjoy this lake. This is noted for fishing, especially bass fishing, but also great for kayaking and canoeing. So it's a wonderful example of how the public benefits with the protection of conservation easements. Well, beyond saving world-class natural resources through conservation easements, it's also important not to forget the man-made landscape, the cultural landscape that was part and parcel of this very distinct region. And here we have an example of an African-American tenant house that was built in the early part of the 20th century. There were some 20 families living on Tall Timbers, and we wanted to make sure that that rich African-American heritage was conserved. And so today we have this fine example of an old tenant house that's been beautifully restored, wonderful oral history with the families, to make that linkage with history in terms of what it was like for 11 family members to live out here, to have a 40-acre patch of cotton, and for school children and others to come out and see 2 miles into the interior of this property how families lived. Is part and part of the legacy of this region. The strength of land trust is the landowners themselves. It's not professional staff, it's not a cadre of attorneys and appraisers and whatnot. It comes from the heart and passion of landowners who say, I love this land. I grew up on this land, I hunted in this land, and I fished in this land. They have an opportunity to leave their children and the greater community that lasting legacy of permanently protecting those precious resources.